Oh, let me strip that round. Let's do that. Like that. Look, there's David. Hello, everybody. Right. Good-o. Hopefully, you can now see us. Hello. Welcome to 20th Century Posters. This is a gloriously shambolic, and I mean gloriously shambolic, look around my dear friend David Bownes' collection. Now, I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm just going to check in here because as YouTube is this kind of thing, I'm going to just check in and make sure that you can all definitely hear me. Because what I don't want to happen... Oh, let's see if this works. Look, we are live. David, we're live. Can anyone hear me? Oh, look at that. There we are. Can anyone hear us? In Twitter, can you please also comment whether you can hear us as well? Because this is a brand new thing for me and for David to do this. Is that working? Oh, great, we can hear you.
Excellent.
Right, we're here. Anyway, this is David Bownes, who you
Hello,
may...
yeah.
This is David. David has created 20th Century Posters. How many years ago, David?
Oh, God, it must be 6 years ago this month, in fact.
Congratulations.
Thank
Happy
you very much.
birthday. We're avoiding using wireless microphones because this one we know works. And frankly, I'd rather show you really cool stuff. Now, David, you might recognise from either the London Transport Museum, where you were a curator for many years.
I was indeed, yeah.
Or indeed the architecture the railways built, where you lectured us on Metroland. And indeed also Secrets of the London Underground.
Indeed.
Now, we are in London's trendy, unaffordable Islington, as far as I'm concerned.
That's very much the case in lovely Cross Street.
But you have created this gallery and shop of the most incredible posters. Now, I keep coming here, and frankly, I keep buying stuff. But I wanted to show you what is here, because it is quite remarkable. David, how did you get started in posters?
Well, I've always really liked posters, not very surprisingly, and I was lucky with my museum career to work with a lot of really significant collections, particularly London Transport Museum, which is one of the world's greatest poster collections, and then also the National Army Museum with their collection as well. And I got a bit obsessed, probably a little bit too obsessed with posters. And when I sort of finished with museums a few years ago, I thought what I want to do is to be a poster dealer, and 6 years later, that is unfortunately what I have become.
This is what happens. Your private passion becomes an obsession, and it becomes something you share with other people like me as well, and we get involved. Now, I'm just going to show you. Now, you can all hear this great hello. You all can hear us. Super. Now, in this place, you have amassed, I'll ask you how in a minute, literally hundreds of posters. When you come into this shop on Cross Street and this gallery, there are posters from the railways, you've got from Shell, railways, a lot of railways here, and a lot of stuff of exhibitions. Where do you get this stuff from? Well, obviously your secrets, obviously, but how do you come about these? Because these are all original. These aren't repro. These are all original.
So nothing is a repro. I mean, this is a full-time job trying to source this stuff. I specialise in British poster design, and it's looking every single day for trying to find this stuff. I mean, sometimes it might be from the collection of a printer or a family of an artist, or stuff that's been discovered in a loft, or more prosaically, perhaps at auction. But it is all the time trying to get this stuff together.
I mean, you once emailed me saying, I've just found this amazing stuff. It's been in a loft for years and years and years, and this woman, her father worked for the railways, and she's got all these posters to give me. And so you've uncovered stuff that's never been seen before.
Well, that was a great find, and she was a lovely lady who contacted me about a find in a loft in Ealing, about 180 posters. And her father had worked for the what was then the Western Regions Publicity Department of British Railways, and he had taken this stuff home, put it in his loft. Probably he finished doing that in the 1960s, and there it remained until last year, a year before. And it was an extraordinary collection, not in very good condition, but an extraordinary collection.
Tell me, of all the stuff you've got here, because there's about 400 posters, I think, sort of here and
in the shop,
storage as well. Yeah, I mean, plus others elsewhere. What kind of posters are the most popular?
Well, travel posters, railway travel posters are hugely popular, particularly ones that have an interesting sort of place, somewhere like Brighton or Margate or York or Durham. These are all your perennially popular posters. But also in British poster design, you've got airlines and Guinness and some of the shipping companies really outstanding. I mean, to be honest, they're sort of far better quality than they needed to be. They're sort of a who's who of graphic design history, brilliantly printed. They're great things.
People often say, why don't we have travel posters like we used to these days? Why is that?
Well, Transport for London still sort of flies the flag. I mean, they still commission great artists, and there are still campaigns at Virgin Trains when they were around. There's some really top-notch posters. But unfortunately, a lot of modern posters are photographic, is more limited, or they're so covered in logos that the branding sort of gets in the way, particularly for a geeky purist like me. I want to see a fantastic image, and often that's sort of clouded by messaging.
Well, let's look at some of these posters, because I mean, 21st century stuff, there is some lovely stuff around, right? There are some lovely ones around, and some great poster artists being commissioned right now, as you say. Let's look at, let's take five. Let's take 5 posters, because what I'd like to do, if there are any poster types that you would like us to have a look at or look for, because there are railways, travel, airlines, there's international, there's stuff here from the Soviet, and there's stuff, underground, the winter sails underground poster. Any type of poster, do comment in the box there and ask any types, and we'll try and dig one out at the end of this. So we're going to finish by about 8:30, ideally, but we're going to switch around. So pick for me, so we've gone 5 that you'd like to show us.
Well, I'll start off with this one. It's Blue Peter Fashion is right in front of me here. This is a great poster.
Let's come a bit closer. Let's come a bit closer, because then everyone can see a bit closer.
Okay. Has it got a shine on it?
A little bit of a shine, but we can deal with that.
But yeah, this is a Great Western Railway poster. It's under London, Midland and Scottish Railway branding here. But how brilliant is this? Sort of 1935, and it's trying to present English spas as tourist destinations rather in the way of the German spas, which were hugely popular. But Germany, for some reason, have become less of an attractive tourist destination in the 1930s.
I can't think why
that might have been. So instead, the railway company is trying to cash in on the rather upmarket tourists that might have gone to Germany previously, trying to get them to go to Leamington Spa. This was one of the ones that was found in that loft find.
Was it?
Rolled up since the 1960s. Although it dates from the mid-30s.
I love her look on her face, the sun coming down to her face. It contrasts with the kind of the block colours of the printing behind. I just spotted though, it's by Ronald Lampitt.
Yes.
He was a Ladybird book artist, was he not?
I'm going to say he was. I didn't know that, Tim. But yes, he was a great railway poster artist as well, yeah?
Sure he was. Helen, if you're watching, Helen Day, you are the guru of all things Ladybird, as people like Jason Hazley, if you're watching too. I think you like that as well. Okay, so that's from there. That's LMS. It looks a bit Great Western. There we go. It is
a Great Western Railway poster.
But why has it got LMS on it though?
They ran services to Leamington Spa, and sometimes what railway companies did was that they shared their advertising to reduce costs. But that is a Great Western Railway poster, although it's branded LMS.
I never knew that. I should know that. Right, number 2.
Just a different sort of poster.
Let's see a different type of poster.
Okay, so I love exhibition posters. And with exhibition posters, there's 2 sort of main types. There are the exhibition posters that show a picture of the exhibit and say, come to the Tate. And then there are exhibition posters like this that are designed by the artist. So people like Le Corbusier and Hockney and Lichtenstein and Picasso, they designed the poster. And this one, designed by Le Corbusier for an exhibition of his rugs and tapestries in 1956. Isn't that beautiful?
It is. It's not my style, but it is rather beautiful. I mean, it is wonderful.
I don't know what to say. I'm going to have to show you something that is your style then.
Go on then.
Okay.
This is the problem, you see. It started a couple of years ago. It's like gateway entry drugs. You buy one, it's like, oh, David, have you got any more posters that are in sort of like of this type? I mean, oh, hello.
So this is a Tramways poster from London's Tramways. Why, Tim Dunn, is it that shape?
I'm going to guess to fit on the front of a tram.
That's exactly right. So these were a unique shape. They were designed by the students at the Central School of Arts because the Central School of Arts was run by London County Council that also ran this tram service. This is before days of London Transport. Well, yeah, it's before days of London Transport. And this one, remarkably, advertises Greenwich Beach and Pier as a sort of a seaside-esque day-out venue for Londoners.
Greenwich Beach and Pier. Where's the pier? Of course, where there's the
this sort of structure here. But this is by Morris Castleman, and they are incredibly rare, these posters. When you go to the London Transport Museum's collection, they never put together a collection of these tram posters.
Sorry, just so you know, there's a fire engine going past.
There is a fire station literally around the corner, so that might happen again. Yeah? So there you go, 1925, an original London Tramways poster. So I love that sort of stuff as well.
I mean, so where did that one come from? How did you acquire that one?
This came from the collection of a chap who started in the 1960s, and he acquired a lot of his stuff back then when it was very cheap, and he would write to organisations and ask them for their posters. But this is a great rarity, and I love it.
That's lovely. I mean, there's a top tip. Write to organisations and ask for their posters, or buy posters that are brand new and contemporary now, right? Because then they might be worth something in the future. So always keep those pop posters in a sensible, rolled-up tube. Now, I mean, I've got a lot of, frankly, dubious music posters from the 1990s of the dance scene, and I've kept those from my late teens, and they're probably worth nothing.
No, but music posters are great. I mean, I love collecting and selling music posters. Some are really valuable already. I mean, there are American collectors who'll pay like $100,000 for the right Grateful Dead poster. Things like the Rolling Stones and Queen have a particular niche market. But more sort of my era, things like the Smiths, and Joy Division and New Order, because that stuff was properly designed. And you got Savile doing the stuff for New Order, and you got Morrissey allegedly doing the designs for the Smiths. It's really, really good stuff. But this is more sort of like pop art.
And bring it a bit closer as well, show this one, because this is really rather lovely, this one.
This is the sort of stuff I love as well. I mean, it's a nice bit of design by an Italian artist called Cavoso. But what a moment in English history. This, the World Cup 1966. This is the only time, of course, that England has won the World Cup up to now. But this is an original poster. It shows the cities that hosted the matches. And at this time, of course, when this was put up, it wasn't obvious that England was going to win. And this would have been sort of like tube stations and railway stations and on venues that were going towards Wembley and the other football stadiums.
So this is the World Cup, and no one knew it was going to win, obviously, and this is before the real event. It seems weird, like this is being produced without knowledge of something of it being such a massive event, right? But all these posters for events, they don't realise quite what was going to happen afterwards.
But I love this sort of stuff as well, because you get examples of outstanding design. And this is perhaps not an outstanding piece of design, but what it is a great piece of social history. It's like a sort of postcard from the past that takes you right back to sensibilities of the 60s. Can I show you another 60s
Go on,
poster?
give us our next one. I've got some questions. Some things coming here. Do you have... Oh, that's fine. Oh, we've got some great questions.
Are they rude questions, Tim?
These are good questions. Oh, I've got some questions for London Underground posters.
Okay,
I've got some stuff for LNER posters. We've got LNER posters.
Got a good one coming.
We've got Channel Islands posters.
No Channel Island posters. I do get Channel Island posters. But
Anything from Southend-on-Sea?
Yes.
White, just to prove it exists, apparently.
Yes, there are very good posters by a poster artist called Allinson, did for the Southern Railway.
Somebody asked that pretty horrific one for the tennis girl scratching her bottom. And anything on...
I met her once at a do.
Come back to it so you can see all of you. You met her once?
Yeah.
Right.
She was still very glamorous in middle aged as well, I can say. So this is just... Shush. This has just come in, literally a couple of days ago. Isn't this cool? So this is by Peter Blake, and he did this poster for the Daily Telegraph in 1968. And the Daily Telegraph ran an article about it saying that the times of sort of fine art and fine art prints are over. It's all about pop art. It's all about poster art. And Peter Blake has signed this for himself.
He signed it.
He signed this, and this is Marion Faithfull. It's called Morgan the Faithful for some reason. Isn't that great?
It is great. And doesn't she look brilliant?
She looks brilliant. So I'm also really interested in this sort of stuff, which has a very different design feel to the Underground. But should we get an Underground poster?
Underground poster? Who wants an Underground poster? We want an Underground poster. I've just spent the entire day, I have to say, in the London Transport Museum archives and at the depot today doing filming. This might be the waistcoat I wear for some... Shut up, Tim.
I'm
This is
sorry
much
to
more
interrupt
interesting.
you there.
But do bring it a bit closer. To show, go show a bit closer.
So this is a panel poster. So this would have gone in a tube car. Is that sort of the right sort of place?
Can you all see that? And then you can bring it back over here. Yeah.
So this would have gone on the glass panels inside tube cars and also on some of the above the seating. But this is tremendous because it's by a French, a Parisian artist called André Marty, and he worked for Vogue. And it's printed on André Marty, but he's also signed it in pencil, André Marty.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
And this is from 1933, and it's for the Wimbledon tennis finals. Look at that. Tennis go to Southfield Station, thence by special bus to the ground.
There's a word you don't hear enough of.
Don't hear enough of thence, do you?
Thence, that's splendid. Oh, look. Again, it's the variety for me. Again, it's just a simple poster. Oh.
So here's another one from the same sort of period. Put that there. Can
Now
everyone
I've got to ask.
everyone see that?
Can I be so very rude to ask about money on some of these? How much did these sort of original posters go for?
Well, the value of posters is enormously varied. You can get really good original posters, 50, 60 years old, for £50, or you can pay £100,000. Now, in terms of the sort of stuff that I sell, the sort of stuff that people might see at auction in the UK, it's hundreds of pounds or 1,000.
Yeah.
And for that, you get an outstanding designer, a lithographically printed poster, super rare. Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Because I've had stuff from you that I bought from your website over the years, where I knew you very well. Like railway stuff, like 100 quid or so, like
Yeah.
50 quid. Some lovely narrow gauge railway ones that mean a lot to me. Maybe not many other people, but they're very specific, right? So you've gone on the website, which is, what's the website?
At 20th Century Posters.com.
20thcenturyposters.com. It would be rude not to mention that. And do a search on there, because there are some ones on there that are very specific stuff. Go on there and have a search. And is all of your collection on that or not?
It's always been added to. So later this month, putting on about 70 cycling posters, but it's constantly been updated.
70 cycling posters.
You're right there about your sort of Welsh narrow gauge stuff. With posters, you can create a sort of a personal gallery, but autobiography on the wall of what interests you. Because you can get a poster for pretty much anything. I mean, whether it's a band or an exhibition or a place that you went to university or lived or you know, were born or whatever. But look at that.
The Kennel Club show.
So that's by Tom Eckersley.
Tom
Eckersley is the great sort of poster designer. But this is actually signed Eckersley Lombers, because in the 1930s, when this was made, Tom Eckersley was in partnership with a fellow Mancunian, Eric Lombers, and they did some absolutely superb posters, and that is one of them.
It's lovely.
Very modern for the 1930s, that.
That's 30s?
Yeah, that's 1938, that one.
I mean, that feels 60s and 70s to me. I mean, that is splendid. I mean, again, Eckersley's kind of main time was a bit later, wasn't it?
It was. He's more well known for his 1950s and 60s stuff. With London Transport posters, there is a little trick that can make you look like an expert, and that's because in the print code there is the date. So you can look at a poster like this and go, I wonder when this is from. Oh yes, probably 1938. It's often sort of slightly disguised in the code, but it's in the code.
Well, to coin a phrase, there's a secret of the London Underground for you. I might use that actually. I might nick that for series 2.
Do you want to see some different stuff?
Yeah. I know we said 5, but I'm going to go 10. Let's do 10.
Okay. So there's other types of things that we have here and that I'm particularly interested in, and that's the sort of artworks for posters.
Sorry, that's the Loire Valley by Hanson Dorset. So Hanson Dorset being the bus coach company, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you see this. This is what an artwork for a poster would look like. It's executed in gouache, if that's the right pronunciation, and by the artist, and then it's gridded over like this, so that the printer, a very skilled lithographer, would reproduce that in reverse on the printing plates to be printed. But this is what a poster artwork looks like in the raw, and they're often in this sort of smaller size because they would be scaled up to the right size. But isn't that great?
That's fab. So if around the edge, have you gone over the edges with the artist, or has she gone over the edge?
A little bit. You can see the
Oh, look at that.
The tape and everything.
Now that's interesting. So why was Hanson Dorset doing trips to the Loire Valley? They were taking busloads of people to the
Yeah,
south
because
of France.
they were a coach company. I'm not the biggest coach company expert in the world, but Hanson Dorset were.
Lovely.
They did a lot of continental tours.
Smashing. Really lovely on that one. Can I ask for you to tell me about it?
Yes.
So there's two I'd like you to look at. Two. I'm greedy. There's one at the camping coaches one. Can we talk about camping coaches for a minute? Because I love camping coaches.
Well, I think you probably know more about camping coaches than I do.
Well, camping coaches, I wouldn't like to try and train and explain at you, David, but they first started by the LNER in 1933, and they had 10 in 1933. Just hold this one up, could we? Just hold this one up. This one is the British Railways, and what was lovely was the old railway coaches, wooden-bodied ones that were actually taken out of service, and they were fixed up as being camping. And you could go and get your services often and the water and so on at the local station, because often parked behind stations, and they were wheeled out. But the one condition of going for these coaches and hiring them was you had to go there and come back by train.
Yes.
To buy your return ticket by train. They were taken away during the Second World War, but after the Second World War, when British Railways came in, they had nationalisation, they launched a whole load of newish ones, refurbished ones, didn't really work, all shut down in 1971, but gradually have come back as kind of privately run things all over Britain. I just want to give a plug for Steam Railway magazine, and you'll find an article all about them in the next issue.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
That I've written. This one.
This is another one of those that was found in the loft in Ealing.
And it's lovely, a happy family and their sandwiches.
It's a very happy family, the 3 children, one of whom looks about 45, but putting that aside.
That's auntie.
And all of this would have been provided by the railway company, all the crockery and cooking utensils that you could have needed. And yeah, they're listed apparently. I always thought with this poster that the illustration is tremendously strong, and you have some black and white
It's
photographs.
just weak, isn't it? It just
of the interior.
But as a poster, it's beautiful.
It's absolutely tells you how British Railways was trying to market itself at this precise time.
Confused, I think, especially. Are they kind of doing relevant? And do you have any high-speed train posters? No. I
haven't got any in at the moment.
But you do have the first instance of the word Intercity.
I do. Now, I'm going to have to scrabble to find that.
I'm going to talk over this.
So I'm going to have to move you as well.
I'm going to go this way.
Such an awkward request, Tim, but let me
get there. We're going to find something. So just so you know, in these big cabinets, in this secure shop, we have got, or David's got, hundreds of posters, plus others in archives elsewhere. Now, this is cool. This is really, really interesting. Look at this.
Now,
just hold this.
This is another one from the loft find, and look, I haven't cleaned this, so it's still got the soot from the fire because there was a chimney in the loft. But there you go. What is so special, Tim, about that poster? That
is the very first time the words Intercity is used to describe a train ever, as far as I am aware.
That's what I think too. I think it's about 1952, something like that. I'm sure there's plenty of people watching who would know precisely, but it was a named train. So rather than like a
the
fleet
Intercity
train, it was the Intercity, and it's hyphened. And you were telling me the other day that even the Intercity was hyphened in the 60s.
The Intercity 125 was initially launched with a hyphen in it. I'm sure someone tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it starts off with that, which is very interesting. No, not currently. Ross, not at the moment. Bought one. So, sorry. I've got that one. Cool. Oh, any Welsh posters? We've got the Wye Valley, and that's almost, it should be Wales.
Shall I bring this one over?
Yeah.
Now, I've just sold this to a guy who lives in the Wye Valley. Shall I hold that?
Oh, that is beautiful.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, that's the business right there.
I mean, that is genuinely... Oh, no. Have we gone offline? No, we're still on. We're still on. There's just my internet over there. Don't worry, it's fine.
So this size of poster, I'll get around my browsers here. This size of poster is called a quadroil poster, and this is the really big landscape poster that the railway companies had on the stations. But it's brilliant, isn't it? And just a marvellous evocation of summer on the English-Welsh border in the Wye Valley.
When I am in charge
of
everything
soon
on the railways, it will happen one day. Not my words. I will commission a new poster art like that. Right, other good stuff. Like, isn't it lovely? Do you have any classic movie posters in?
I don't. Movie posters are so separate to the sort of travel and propaganda and product-based posters. So you have specialist movie poster dealers, and on the whole, they don't tend to intermingle with the stock.
So no one's here because they are the specialist ones. Cool. Okay. We've got anything? Oh, what's this? What's this?
What's Soviet?
Yeah, Soviet.
Well, I always got good propaganda posters in, and what's better than a good Soviet propaganda poster?
I mean, that is. I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is spot on.
It's really, really bold and in your face, isn't it? This particular poster, can everyone see that? That's from 1976, and the message here is.
What does it say?
Well, because obviously I can read this very easily, and there was no way I asked a Russian friend to do that for me. But what it says is the Soviet peoples can be content or secure that they are well protected, and they're well protected by the Navy and the Army and by cosmonauts.
Oh, look at this! And here's
for some reason.
Here we go. Well, of course, it's that's the future.
That's the future. Is how powerful Russia is. But this sort of bold graphic, the 1970s and the 80s were the last sort of period for this. Before the war, the Soviet stuff was extraordinary. People like Rodchenko and Levitsky and others doing that constructivist, the photo montage posters. When you're asking me before about filthy money, that stuff is really very, very valuable indeed as well. The early film posters for Battleship Potemkin, for example, is a particularly expensive poster for our Russian friends. But this sort of stuff is much more affordable, and from the 1970s and 80s has a very in-your-face aesthetic.
What posters do you see going up in value? Because all of these, when people buy... Oh, I'm sorry, look at this one, sorry. Look, this one, sorry. Arnold Castle. It's a British Rail one.
Yeah, I mean, I love these posters. These are by a guy called Reginald Lander, and he was the last, in some ways, of the graphic designers. He started before the war, but he was still working in the 1980s when this was done. These posters are very affordable.
They are.
They remind me of stamps from the 1970s. They have a bit of that sort of aesthetic. And Lander did a lot. He did a series of castles, but also other UK destinations.
They're lovely. Again, it's a place I know very well indeed, Arnold Castle. And I'll also have one down here as well, just because I know this is a very expensive one, because it's so popular.
Yeah, well, okay.
And
so
rare.
If you're talking about sort of products, your British products, the best posters were done by Guinness. Guinness had an outstanding and internationally famous reputation for its posters. And the best poster designer for Guinness was this man, John Gilroy. And you'll know his work, and if you don't know his name, all of those sort of toucans and depictions of the zoo. This particular poster, which dates to about 1952, wasn't very popular at the time for whatever reason. Maybe there was a Soviet element with a bear. I don't know.
Okay.
But
yes.
It was only used for one brief campaign, as I understand it. But it's a lovely poster, isn't it? With the zookeeper that appear in so many Gilroy's posters, trying to coax him down to get his bottle of Guinness back.
They're lovely.
There's another. Can I show you another Guinness poster? Whilst we're on that?
Yeah, why not? What's the time? Oh, it's 8:30, so thank you for
John,
sticking
should
with
we wrap up?
Well, I think we should just see what else we've got. Is there any more questions? What's the oldest poster? What's the oldest poster you've had? I mean, this is from 1066, this one.
Yes, here it is. The oldest poster is from 1066. I will answer that question, but I like this one, because see what Guinness have done there. The Battle of Hastings 1066, the bottle of Guinness 1966.
Oh,
a round of applause for Guinness.
And look, there's a Guinness there in his hand.
So, Duke of Normandy, isn't it?
There's the bottle.
He's showing he hasn't been shot in the face. He's getting a pint Guinness as a reward.
I mean, that's really good for 66. That's quite witty. And that's
the same year as the World Cup poster.
It feels like a 1996 poster, that side of it.
The humour is. In terms of age, I sometimes get letterpress posters from as early as the 1860s. I had one the other day that was from 1860.
Oh, there was that railway one, which I regret.
The mid Great Northern Eastern Railway, some weird sort of use of the terms.
I had FOMO on that one, and I almost got it from you, and it was this lovely poster with these stamps at the top of the classic railway excursion train, wasn't it?
Well, I can tell you that it's gone to a museum, so it's in a good home. But it was particularly, it was for a public meeting, saying, you know, should the railway be extended to King's Lynn?
Yes.
And you know, all come to the pub to talk about it.
Alexander Jones says, what is the strangest poster you've ever had through this gallery?
The strangest poster. I don't know. That's a really good question. I have to think about that.
Can you just hold this a minute? Hold that just there. And feel free to talk to me. I'm going to show you this. It's all really quite strange. I'm going to show you animals over here. Look. There's a litter poster. Look, there's a litter one. Those are quite cool, like keep brushing tidy ones. They're quite strange too. Also, here's an underground one. Look, I know you like underground. The winter sails ones. Just show you those winter sails are best reached by underground. They're rather lovely. I mean, you've got some. I mean, what's that one down there? Art Today on the Underground. Oh, here's one that I really like. I know it's a train poster. Another train poster. The LNER one.
Oh yes, yeah, that's particularly good.
Let's get this one here. So I've ruined David's gallery.
It's wrecked.
If I look at some of these ones. Oh, look at this. Check these. Do you know what? Let's put this over here. Right, let's talk this over. I mean, this is why I don't actually do production. I just do presenting because I am rubbish at production. Here's another set. I mean, people watch this going, "Oh, my head." Look at this, it's a David. You always walk a stand over there.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely, right. Let's angle that up a little bit. Like that. And you can go and stand it, because you are 7'3".
I am 7'3", that's right.
You can go and sit down on that.
Tim's 6'10", you can see the enormous difference. On this.
You can sit on that.
I'm going to fall off.
I know, it's quite good.
So that's probably my favourite poster that I currently have.
The King's Cross one?
Yeah, some lucky chap is coming to collect it tomorrow.
You just sold it?
But it's really great. So that's by Frida Lindström, and she was one of those sort of pioneer female designers from the 1920s. There were a number of women designers at that time, mainly associated with Underground, but Frida worked for the LNER and for Norwegian State Railways. And that was done in 1924. Which was when the London North Eastern Railway was a brand new company, and it's all about trying to encourage people to go to Scotland on the glamorous East Coast route. There was a version of that poster at King's Cross Station at the time, massive hoardings. I've seen black and white picture of it, but you can imagine what it must have looked like in colour.
Now I'm just saying, if any of the LNER marketing team are watching this, I know who you are, and you might be watching this. If you are looking at this, maybe that should be reprised sometime. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Isn't it amazing? Yeah. She did a series of booklets about what you could see on the route between King's Cross and Edinburgh. And they all have super dramatic covers like that, but only that one was done as a poster, I think.
That is splendid.
She went on afterwards, she became the head of the first director of children's television for the BBC, created Andy Pandy and Watch With Mother and those sorts of things. But isn't that a marvellous poster?
It's terrific. It's terrific. And tell us, it's the Britain for golf.
This is a good poster as well. In the 1940s, the British Travel Association did a big drive to try and get sort of overseas money into the UK after the war. And so these sort of posters were not seen in the UK, they were posted overseas. This one particularly in America, and it shows come to Britain for golf, and there was come to Britain for motoring, there was come to Britain for yachting, come to Britain for horse racing.
You come to Britain for anything really, anything you can buy.
The motoring one, because they were all released in 1947, the motoring one caused a bit of a stir at the time because there was petrol rationing that was still on, so it was perhaps not the best message. But this is a generic, it looks a bit like Turnberry, but it's a generic golf course.
Fabulous, isn't it? What's it about?
So that's, again, one of my favourites. That is a coach poster produced for the British Transport Commission by John Birmingham. Now, some people will know John Birmingham as a children's book illustrator, and he was a great children's book illustrator. He unfortunately died a couple of years ago. But that's got a blank spot on it because that would have been overprinted with the times for the coaches to whisk you to your horse race.
Now, there's a couple more before we go. Sure. I know people have got a lot of time to do things, but one here, the Marlene Dietrich poster.
Yeah.
How cool is that? I mean, she
Wow.
was extraordinary, and that poster is stunning. What was it for?
Well, this is also by the great Tom Eckersley.
Is it really?
Tom did a series of posters, sort of called Hollywood Greats, he called them, in the early 80s. That one was 1981. And he did them with the intention of making some money. They were to be sold in poster shops and maybe art shops. So they're not advertising anything. There's other ones in the series for Chaplin and Groucho Marx and half a dozen others. But they're very striking. Once you know it's by Tom Eckersley, you can see it's Tom Eckersley. It's got
It's at the bottom there.
clarity of the design is amazing.
Oh, everything he did was so beautifully simple. It makes me weep.
Yeah.
How just stunning, and how it's clearly right, the clarity of image.
It's really deceptively simple. If you look at the original artworks, and there's some at London Transport Museum in their collection, where he's cut out shapes and pasted them onto a background, and you think, oh, that looks simple, and it's genius, work of genius. Him and Abraham Games are the two great British designers of the post-war era.
Do you know, there's a very good, newish, but actually now quite seasoned poster artist, contemporary, Julia Allen, I think,
Yes.
actually, who she did a poster for the Underground with a parrot, I think, on it. And some of her work actually reminds me, as with some of the, in concept, the simplicity of it, but clarity, has some of that Eckersley sort of feel to
I
it.
should have mentioned to her earlier, because when you were saying about, posters perhaps for investment or posters looking at the future, I bought some Julia Allen stuff just to put in my plan chest for the distant future. I think she's brilliant, and her work is absolutely tremendous. And she's got a great social media account, so anyone interested should see her stuff.
There's also someone I've bought posters from actually in artwork. Steffi Arazzi
Yeah.
has done some lovely stuff for some modernist buildings. But again, and people are like, oh crikey, now I think of these different names. It's going to be so rude.
There's Paul Catherall.
Paul
He's a bit more
Catherall, lino
established.
cuts
His
as well.
lino cuts are absolutely tremendous.
And the woman does lino cuts of London Underground quite a lot.
Yes, whose name I've just got a blank on as well, yeah.
I follow you on Twitter.
Yes.
Oh no.
She does those urban scenes of motorways. Everyone is screaming at us with her
Someone
name
shouted us.
right now.
Who is it? What is her name? Because I keep seeing her art on oh crikey.
I have one of her lino cuts at home on the wall.
It's often for sale down Bermondsey Street, where I often go for my walking in the evenings. Now, just because we're running out of time, and it's 38, and we've gone far too long. Thank you so much for sticking with us. And your time is valuable. I was going to really ask, if somebody wants to get into collecting or buy their first vintage poster, because often the first time it's like, oh, what shall I buy? What would you recommend people do?
But always buy something that you're interested in. Don't just buy for investment. That doesn't always work out. So if you're interested, you love it, you're not going to lose, are you? It's going to be a brilliant thing. I think rock and pop posters, despite what I was saying about the Grateful Dead, I think rock and pop posters are very undervalued. You can get amazing stuff for a few quid. Exhibition posters are also very undervalued right now. So landmark shows, Royal Academy shows, Tate Modern shows. Great pieces of work, brilliantly printed, 30, 40 quid, 50 quid for the last 20 years. Perfect things to buy. If it seems too good to be true, it might be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fakes on things like eBay.
Do you know, I often look on eBay and go, oh, that's got, hang on a second, that's got air